If you're attracted to modern home decor or different design styles for interiors, you would probably be really attracted to the modern garden style. So in modern garden style, less is always more. And I'm going to be covering modern and contemporary in the same category, but it's important to know that they're kind of a little bit different. So while all modern gardens can be contemporary, not all contemporary designs are modern. And I hope that makes sense, and I'll explain it a little bit more. So a modern design can be described as hard-edged, clean-lined, and minimalistic. And typically you'll see a modern garden design in a commercial property and not really in a residential property. Modern gardens use a lot of metal, concrete, and they typically have a monochromatic or a pale color palette. And modern design focuses a lot on the types of materials and the usage of the materials within the garden rather than nature or the plants. Contemporary garden style is a derivative of modern garden style, and it tends to be more of a natural or softer version of a modern garden. And this is typically what you'll see in a residential space rather than a commercial space. So contemporary gardens are more of what you would see in a home garden. The outdoor room is the heart of a contemporary garden design. So there's a lot of focus put on the actual living or entertaining space of the garden versus the use of the plants. We're really focusing in a contemporary design on these spaces that people interact with. So just the difference between the two, think of a modern design for a commercial space and a contemporary design more focused on the living area and for leisure and entertaining, and that's sort of what you would see in a residential space. I call them both modern garden style in this video, but just remember that contemporary is really the proper term for what I'm talking about. My name is Amy, and I help home gardeners design landscapes that are uniquely you through courses, books, and information on this YouTube channel and on my website. So if you're interested in designing your very own 4-season landscape, I invite you to subscribe to this channel and also check out all the links to tons of resources in the description below. So if you're looking to get the modern garden style at home, I have some tips and ideas for you. In general, less is more with this style, and it sounds like it would be really easy, but everyone that I've met that is trying to do a modern garden has a tendency to really overdo this. So my best advice is to choose one anchor or staple plant that you're going to repeat a lot throughout your design, like a lot. And you're going to just use this and repeat it everywhere in your design, and that's really gonna create that restful modern look that you're going for. So typically in modern gardens, there's a very, very limited color palette. It's the farthest on the spectrum as far as color and plant variety goes. So very little color variance and very little plant variety in the modern garden style. So it's kind of easy. You just have to choose a couple different plants. A lot of modern gardens don't even have any color in them. They're all just greens from foliage. So think about simplifying and how less is more in this particular style. Another tip I have for achieving a modern garden style is to use geometric shapes and forms throughout. So I think a lot of people believe that a modern garden can't have curves, but it's far from the truth. It can have curves, and the design of the pavers and the walkways and things like that can be very asymmetrical. You don't have to go with that straight symmetrical one thing on one side equals one thing on the other. So you could really play and have a lot of fun with paving patterns in different shapes and forms and making that really robust to sort of make up for the lack of plant variety that you're going to have. But always remember, even if you're using these geometric shapes, to keep everything simple and very elegant as you're doing it. Don't go overboard, don't use too many materials. Less is always more, even though you can play with asymmetry and those fun geometric shapes and forms. You can also have a lot of fun with a modern garden style using architectural sculptures and water features and things like that. Sculptures and planters that are very smooth and sleek, think like concrete, like smooth concrete. Those are really great, and adding water features seems to be a really fun way to bring out a bit of personality into this style. And even though you'll have a minimal color palette in this style, this is a place where you can start to add a bold pop of color. So I would choose some kind of accent color, and maybe you can incorporate that into some of your planters or sculptures or other features inside of your garden, and that will really add some personality to it. I already mentioned concrete, but metal is another great element to add to a modern garden style. Think metal grids, sheet metal, or even galvanized steel, and how you can incorporate that into raised planter beds or other sculptures inside of the garden. Try to stay away from anything that gets rusty or that would look a little bit less modern, I guess is the word I'm trying to come up with. You want it to stay smooth and sleek and very simple, so choosing metals that don't really age is probably a better option. Although I've seen it done with like a Corten steel that will rust and look really cool as it ages. That can still be considered modern because as it ages, it kind of takes the same form. And then you can also think about very simple shapes of those planters or whatever you're using the steel on to make sure that it's not like a wild design or anything. So keeping it simple, less is more. A little bit of aging is okay, but that smooth, sleek metal is also really, really awesome in this style. So the hardscaping in general in modern style gardens is very minimal, just like the planting and everything else. You're on the very smooth and sleek side of the scale for hardscaping. So try to keep all of the hardscaping uniform. Don't choose too many different types of materials and make them very repetitive patterns. I'll put some up on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about, but less is more and smooth and sleek for hardscaping. And I think adding an accent wall or some other feature in the garden is a really great way to add a little bit more personality into this modern garden style that could otherwise feel very stark and empty. So when you're thinking about color, like I said, go very simple on the color palette, but adding a very bright or saturated color to this palette would be a really fun way. You can paint a feature wall in this color or an entire pergola or get a very, very bright colored bench or something like that and really use that very, very bright, bold color as an accent to all of the simplicity that's surrounding that modern style garden. I just wanted to point out that everybody should have their own unique garden, so you can obviously mix the different garden styles together to create something that is unique to you. So don't feel too constrained about it. Try not to do too much too fast. So if you'd want to combine two different styles, take hardscaping elements from one and maybe the planting colors and the amount of plants you use from another and just try combining two. You can always add to it later, but don't go too crazy in the beginning until you get the hang of it. So if you like this video, I'd love for you to check out my garden style mood board workshop. It takes you through the process that I use to build upon these different garden styles and make them more personal and unique to what you want in your own garden. And I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Otherwise, check out some of the other videos I have on different garden styles. I'll leave a link to the playlist right here, and I'll see you over in the next video.